Hello, my name is Ethan, aka True Carnivore.
I'm Travis, aka TC Breakdown, and today we're going to be talking about the misconceptions about video games that still are around today that we don't think should be there. And I don't know. First off, I guess we'll start with the misconceptions that people think that violence in video games causes violence in the real world.
And this is a huge topic with a lot of, I'm going to say, people who aren't as well versed in the video game world. Most of the time it's mothers who instantaneously assume that because their child plays a certain game that they're going to be more prone towards violence. Now, I'm not going to say that there aren't games that are excessive or go a little too far, but I wouldn't say that is why your child is the way your child is.
Yeah, like I see it as just like soccer moms, like, oh my god, my son's playing Call of Duty, he's gonna go shoot up at school. Like, it's been on the news countless times where people try to link violent video games to, violent kids, and it doesn't work like that. Like, the people that are trying to, make these connections are people that don't play these video games, or they're soccer moms, that are letting their child play the game in the first place. If you think it's going to be bad for your kid, don't let them play it.
And that's part of what I think it all boils down to is it's not what the kid's doing, it's what the parents aren't doing. I think more appropriate parenting would eliminate the problem of the persistence with the anger in your child. A lot of that anger is probably not from playing a video game and killing people, because quite frankly that's a good release. Whenever,
Yeah.
if I'm angry, I go play a shooter or something and I start shooting stuff and blowing stuff up, then I release a lot of my anger. It's kind of a good way to vent. It's not a way to really build rage unless you're playing like an online and people are crap talking you and all that. But even then, it takes,
Even then,
yeah.
you're not going to go, like, find a gun and shoot somebody. Like, that's just not a connection that's ever made.
I don't know. There are some people who get really, really butthurt about shit talking online, and they really can't let it go.
I guess, but I still don't think it's, like,
But
those cases are one in a million. Like, you have, cases where in school people get bullied and then they bring guns, Columbine, etc. There's not as many. I don't even think there are any examples of where somebody got, butt hurt from an online video game and then killed somebody about it.
But this is a different thing. That's human to human interaction. This isn't from the direct violence of the game itself, which is what we're arguing. I would say that if any violent tendencies come from a child playing video game, it's from the other human interaction that they get while playing the video game. It's not from anything in the game itself.
Yeah. Next, I don't know. There's so many misconceptions that we can talk about, and I guess the next one would be like, oh, video games are for nerds, and like, that kind of mindset. That kind of mindset's really old. Like, if you're somebody that thinks like that and you can't really see the benefits of playing video games, I'm not saying you should or you have to, or if you don't, you're not as well off as somebody that does. It's just, it does a lot for you. It's a good way to make friends. You make friends online. It's a good release. It's a good stress reliever. It can improves coordination, critical thinking, pattern recognition, problem solving, reflexes. Like, the list goes on, and then people are just like, oh, video games are bad for you.
And especially now in an age where video games have gone from absolute controller manipulation only to more of a multi involving all of your body, honestly, and with the Kinect and the Wii to a degree, and PlayStation's starting to do it too. But when you involve more interaction than just pure hand-eye coordination, then it really does up the problem solving and the critical thinking. a lot of those games that they design for like the Kinect and things of that nature, you can actually even buy games that all they are is problem solving and puzzles, to where all you're doing is working your brain, which I love it. That's wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. I know what you mean. Like, it's just a different kind of activity. Like, it's like contact sports are, like a physical workout, and then video games can be like a mental workout. Like, it's just a different side to an activity.
And in my opinion, they're equally important. If you can't balance working your body and your brain, then you're not really unlocking yourself to your full potential. Because the problem is when somebody does too little of one and more of the other. When someone gets when they delve too deep into video games and they don't do anything else, then their physical form takes a decline. And when someone gets too deep into contact sports and like weightlifting and things of that nature, they tend to be slacking in other areas. Now, I won't say that a football quarterback or a receiver doesn't have to have some kind of cognitive thought in order to process the play at hand or to deal with an audible that's switched up and things of that nature. But as for overall requirements of mental capacity, I'm going to say it's a little bit less than some of the major problem solving that is required for like a puzzle game or even just playing a game of chess, that's what I'm saying. I think it's good to have a balance.
Yeah, definitely. And another big misconception are like from people that aren't really well acclimated to the video game culture is how competitive it really is. People seem to think that it's just, you're sitting in front of your TV, twiddling your thumbs with a controller. And that's not the case, a lot of the time. Like, it can get really competitive. There's countless tournaments that are held and, for money, for prestige. There's all of these things that are done to make it so much more immersive than just sitting in front of your TV.
It is super competitive, and I personally grew up playing a lot of sports. And when I became a teenager, I was introduced to video games, and then growing through my teen years, I became extremely competitive into video games. And that's part of the reason why I don't play them as much anymore, is because I am a in it to win it kind of guy. And video games really, they unlock that inner competitive nature that I have. And for professional gamers, it's blatantly obvious that there's a skill level, and depending on how much time and effort you put into it is how you get better, which is the same with any other competitive thing that you can possibly do in your life. I mean, you could compare it to any contact sport, any any kind of sport at all. The more you put into it, the more you get out of it.
Yeah, these professional gamers put so much into it, just like, professional football players. Just, day after day, practice after practice, review sessions. Like, they're the same. Like, they're on the same level.
Oh yeah, and they even like go back and watch replays of themselves and their opponents.
Oh, yeah. There's so much that goes into every professional sport, and it's no different with professional gaming.
And a lot of people, they don't see that, but I think in time it'll, because it's even like Halo it's on ESPN.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. I don't know if it still is, but I
So
never followed it there.
yeah, whenever, what was it? MLG was doing their big tournaments a lot of times. ESPN, if there's not a big sport going on at the time, then they will show Halo and StarCraft, and I don't think any other games made it on TV, but those two are definitely, probably, in my opinion, the two largest games at the world scale for
Yeah.
competitive gaming.
Yeah. It's really, it's amazing, like, competitive gaming, and it's amazing how big it is, and then how many people are still, with that old mindset, like video games are bad,
And how
that
horribly
kind
it's
of thing.
received.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It really is, because, to be frank about it, when you play video games, I mean, I understand there's some downfalls, like it kills your social life, your physical activity goes down, and things like that. But
It can. Like, if you don't have to let it, though, it's the same thing. Like, you could get wrapped up in football and then not have...
I know that's where I was going. That's what I was going to say. But the same thing applies to contact sports, and also with a contact sport, you could injure yourself for life,
Yeah, concussions and all that.
or broke.
It bums me out that people will bash video games, and then, turn around and be like, football's great. Like, it's the same thing.
In my opinion, the best way to describe that would be, don't knock it till you try it. And I think to fully understand something of this caliber, you're not going to be able to just jump right into Halo 3 or StarCraft 2 and say, oh, this is awesome, I love gaming. It's going to be a slow go, and it's going to be difficult, which is kind of what they're doing with, like I was saying, with some of the Kinect games, with like the dancing and the, well, Guitar Hero, for instance. That's a good way to, and hell, they're even making sports in it games. They've been doing that since the beginning. But it's a good way to immerse a more wide variety of people into the gaming world, which is slowly, everyone's pretty much played video games at this point. I really
Pretty
don't know.
much, yeah.
I don't know anybody that hasn't played video games personally. My 94-year-old grandfather enjoys playing video games. I think that the stigma is gonna pass soon, but the problem is, and I can honestly see some games I don't even approve of. I think that they're a little bit ridiculous, like Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, that could totally be... Like, there are games that are excessive, like, I think it's called Manhunt and Manhunt 2. Like, that was... Like, it comes to a point where the violence is just too excessive.
And a lot of that comes down to parenting. They need to start paying attention to the ratings, because, quite frankly, a 12, 13, 14-year-old should not be playing Grand Theft Auto. I just don't think so. I mean, I played it when I was young. I played Grand Theft Auto 3 on PlayStation 2 when I was like 14 or 15, But personally, I was running around shooting hookers and pimps. I wasn't. But then there's the kids who, I hate to say it, but I honestly can see how a violent tendency could arise out of the incorrect game being played at the wrong age level.
Yeah, like an 8-year-old running around playing Grand Theft Auto, like...
It's just
Like, oh,
inappropriate.
like, I'm stealing a car in a video game, what's going to stop me from doing it in real life? Like, there are... I just don't think it happens every time, And that's what people seem to think, is that violent tendencies always are derived from violent video games. That's not the case. They can be, but oftentimes they're not.
And once again, it all comes down to parenting, in my personal opinion. It's what you allow the child to play. Those sorts of games are not geared and are even specifically labeled to be towards they're towards an older age. They specifically say on the video game, 17 and up. There's a freaking reason for that. It is your own fault if you do not keep that out of your child's hands. And you're like, oh, they go over to their friend's house and play. Well, talk to the other parents. There's no reason for it to be out of hand. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and a lot of things are, derived from the online too. Like, it's, 12-year-olds that play Call of Duty. That is ridiculous. There's so many. They overrun the game. They ruin it for adults, and they learn things that shouldn't, they learn tons of stuff that shouldn't be in the hands of 12-year-olds.
Once again, it all comes down to the rating of the game. I don't have a problem with online play if they're younger, playing appropriate online games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I think the moral of the story is, parents, pay attention to the rating of the games and allow your kids to play the correctly rated games.
Yeah. Be a good parent.
Well, I think that about wraps it up.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
Thanks for listening.
See you guys again.